It's been 14 years since the first Incredibles came out. That is unbelievable. When it first came out, I immediately thought it should have a sequel. This is totally a kind of movie that could create an entire series of movies with all the characters being delved into and so many new supervillains and so many new superpowers being discovered. You could do so much with this subject material. And well, they kind of left it dormant for many years. I guess Disney was busy doing so many other things like Marvel stuff and Star Wars stuff and other Pixar stuff and Toy Story sequels and Cars sequels, I guess, and also some Muppet movies here and there, which is amazing because I didn't think Disney cared about Muppets at all. But yeah, we finally got The Incredibles 2. Well, not even The Incredibles 2, it's just Incredibles 2. You know, it's kind of the Terminator effect. The Terminator, and then there's Terminator 2. I don't know why, but whatever. Incredibles 2 was, well, what's the word for it? Amazing. Fantastic. It was adequate. I considered The Incredibles to be one of my favorite films of all time. If it wasn't for Toy Story, it'd be my favorite Pixar film. If it weren't for The Dark Knight, it'd be my favorite superhero film. It's just got excellent pacing. It's got a great story. It has great character dynamics. It has a great villain, which is really hard to do in superhero films, to make both the superheroes and the villain super interesting. It kind of felt like the finale to a series that we had never seen before. It's as if we get the whole backstory that we don't really need to be told in great detail, but we get a final film in The Incredibles, if that makes any sense. It kind of was paying tribute to Saturday morning cartoons of the 50s and 60s era. And in fact, Mrs. Incredible at one point mentions that they used to watch Saturday morning cartoons all the time. They reference that straight up in the movie. It also takes place in a futuristic 50s environment, very similar in design to a lot of 50s and 60s cartoons. Even the character designs are very much cartoony, like Saturday morning cartoons. So I think it's a big tribute, but it's also its own thing. And it's done, well, extremely well. It's one of the best, I think. And now we have Incredibles 2. After waiting 14 years, I think I had different expectations for this movie than what I ended up getting. I wasn't disappointed. The movie is really good. It's funny, has a great story, there's really funny and well done character animation. It's really engaging. You really keep with the movie the entire time. There's not really one character that doesn't work for me. Every character brings kind of their little moment to the screen. And I think it also has an okay villain. It's a surprising villain anyway, and it was pulled off in a way that I didn't really expect them to pull it off. And yeah, but the only thing is, the film took 14 years to make, and it's a little weird because this movie definitely feels just like another adventure, which, who am I to complain about that? Movies do that all the time. The Indiana Jones franchise. There was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then they made the next one, Temple of Doom, and then they made the next one, Last Crusade. They're all just more adventures, you know, he just goes on different quests. That's kind of what happens in Incredibles 2. Well, to me, after waiting 14 years, I was maybe expecting more character development, to see the characters evolve in a different way, to see them really challenged. I was probably expecting more groundbreaking stuff than what I should be expecting, because this is the movie the filmmakers wanted to make, and the movie they wanted to make was really good. But I think they could have done a little more with the characters. I think they could have done a little bit more with, you know, the story. I think they could have thrown in some other themes in there, because it was missing those those really great emotions from the first movie. It was missing great themes from the first movie that, I don't know, this movie just kind of went more for jokes, and it went more for having fun, and just being a tribute, once again, to Saturday morning cartoons. But maybe I was just expecting too much, who knows. Like I said, the story is done really well. They introduced a bunch of new characters, which this movie can almost, that can almost be a problem in some movies where you introduce too many characters at once that they all become distracting, or there's just too many that you can't take the time to figure out who they all are. But this movie, since they're all superheroes, they all have a defining superpower. So in the end, it works out really well. You don't really need to learn about their characters. You see their superpowers and you understand it. And it makes for great action set pieces. Something that the first movie excelled at. They really took advantage of the superheroes' powers in the first movie, and here they do the same, and it's done really well. I really like that the story pretty much enters right out of where the first one ended, which is really cool. I complained that it took 14 years to make the movie and I was expecting something bigger. But I think in the long run, when I see the movie 20 years down the line and I see the first one again, I will probably put in Incredibles 2 as a double feature, and I'll think of it as one giant movie, because it definitely could work like that. And there's not a lot of movies that I know that could do that, especially after 14 years of waiting. It's not many movies that can do that big of a gap and then have such a smooth transition. It's probably because it's animation. They did a lot more with the character animation in this movie than in the first one. It's probably because the animation technology has gotten a lot better, but they do a lot more expressive stuff, and it makes for funnier scenes, which is a big highlight to me. I thought the animation was great. I really like that Pixar's kind of been holding back on doing so much, what's the word? They beautify their movies. Coco, for instance, was a very beautiful film with lots of great shadows, great coloring, great everything, great details and all. But The Incredibles, the original, had a very much, which it might have been because they didn't have the technology, but it had a much more simple design than other Pixar films have had. So this movie goes back to that style. They don't try to detail things too much. They try to make it a smooth transition, because while there's been 14 years of evolution in technology, you also still need to make it look like the original characters and the original world. The music's really good. Michael Giacchino's back, and he does great again. I mean, it's the themes from the first movie. There's some new stuff in there. I was disappointed that there wasn't really a big moment for his score to shine, though. You definitely hear it in the beginning and the ending of the film, but the first film had some great moments, like the training montage, where his music took over the scene, and then there's the scene where, one of the best scenes of all time, when Mr. Incredible figures out that Syndrome had been killing all the superheroes, and he finds out, what's that music? It's a great theme, and it makes for a great scene in that movie. This movie doesn't really have anything like that, though, and they didn't really take a chance to, breathe. Let the movie breathe while we just listen to some great music. I think the humor was good, and I don't know if it was better than the first Incredibles, because, I'd have to watch them both back to back to find out. But overall, I think it's on the same level of humor as the first film. There's definitely a lot more done with the characters, and they don't repeat any jokes, so I really appreciated that. All the characters were a seamless transition from the first film, especially in design. But there's two characters in particular that were slightly off. One is Tony, who, he looks a little different than he did in the first film. It's probably because he didn't have a big range of emotions in the first film. In this one, he's in it just a little bit more, that they needed to make his face more expressive, so maybe that's why they changed it up. The other is Mr. Dicker, who originally was voiced by Bud Lucky. The guy that they got to replace him was the guy from Breaking Bad, who does a fine job, but it's quite obviously not his voice, especially when the new voice is so distinct that it becomes kind of distracting. Luckily, both of them are not in the movie a lot, and that was probably done intentionally. They wanted all the characters to come back, but they also wanted to make sure if any changes happen, they didn't make it too distracting. Because, for instance, Dash is a whole new voice, and I couldn't even tell. So that was a great positive, actually. Overall, it's an exciting, fun, jam-packed with action film. It's in a world where there's so many superhero movies. It's great that we're still getting even more good ones. And this one, I can say, stands out from the others. For one, it's animation, which is great, and it's good animation. It's got a great story. It's got fun characters, it's got funny lines and funny moments. And that's all I really can say about it. Maybe I'll see something in the movie when I watch it later that I didn't see originally, but for now, I gotta say that the original did a lot better with the themes and emotions, and this one, they were kind of non-existent. They just tried to make a fun movie, which is fine, but why wait 14 years to do that? That's the thing. That's the only complaint, which that's not even a bad complaint. That's just me being, I don't know, annoyed. Because it seems like this movie could have been released 3 or 4 years after the first one, and instead we waited 14 years, and I was waiting for something that could have been a game changer, like Toy Story 3 was, or something like Blade Runner 2049 was. This one was waited 14 years, and all they did was make it a fun, kids movie, which, yeah, I don't have complaints about it, but that is the only complaint, that they just didn't do more, which, yeah, but you can only do so much, and they did a lot in this movie, especially with the animation. Thanks for watching the video. A special thanks to Ryan for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to join him and get early access to certain videos and have your name stamped on the end of videos and even request reviews monthly, then please click on the Patreon link, and thanks for the support.